Well, today is another wonderful, exciting day. I hope everyone in the world who's listening to this is having a good day, good afternoon, good evening. Today, as I always start the podcast, we're going to go deep. And when I say deep, it's about a very deep, concerning issue for a lot of women going through this phase in their life. And today, this is part two of a new series that has begun in my podcast, and one that goes beyond symptoms and surface talk and societal shame and dives into the sacred, systemic, and deeply human experience of menopause. So today, I'm honored again, truly honored, to be joined by a woman who has spent nearly 3 decades walking women home to themselves. Not many people can say they ever get home to themselves, especially women in our busy world. And so Irmgard Rosa Maria Rauscher is a pioneer, and she's been with us before. So if you haven't listened to episode 1, please do, because this is episode 2. And she is a pioneer in the field of systemic constellation work. Having studied directly with Bert Hellinger for 28 years, she's been holding transformative space for individuals and groups seeking healing, integration, and connection to ancestral truth. But Irmgard's work doesn't stop at the family system. She is the creator of Yoni Constellations, a profound approach that explores our relationships to femininity, love, intimacy, sexuality, and the spiritual lineage of the feminine through the lens of constellation work. This is soul work, body work, lineage work, and Irmgard's approach embraces the inner truth of each woman held within personal, familial, and cultural narratives, and brings that truth forward into healing, embodiment, and liberation. In 2006, she published the groundbreaking book. Now, I can't pronounce this one, but it's Fiery Red Transformation. So I can't pronounce the actual word title in German, I believe. But it's one of the few texts that speaks to menopause as a rite of passage, not a medical condition of which so many women, especially in our world today, have been taught that it is. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. Irmgard offers workshops across Germany, Australia, Italy, and Romania, and serves clients worldwide from her home in Bavaria. And I'm working on bringing her to Canada. So today we are going to talk about the menopausal journey, not as an ending, but as a portal to power, to clarity, to ancestral wisdom, to embodiment, to a woman's truest self. So if you've ever felt lost, silenced, or misunderstood in the face of your changing body, this conversation is your invitation to come back to yourself. So welcome, Irmgard. Thank you so much again for joining us on episode 2.
Thank you, Carly, for this wonderful and poetic introduction. And I'm very honored to sit with you here to talk with you about my work with Yoni Constellation, about my knowledge about menopause, on my personal journey. And I'm very honored, and thank you for having me here.
Oh, well, it's an honor and a real blessing for me and for the audience. There's so many women going through so much, and our world right now is a little bit tipsy turvy. So there's even a lot more stress on us as women. And so, in episode 1, we talked a lot about, various things that are leading towards today's episode. And I'm really hoping that women joining us now, and men too. It's not something that men should not listen to, because of the fact they need, in many ways, to understand their lady, their goddess, at a deeper level. So I'm hoping that that men brave themselves into listening to this podcast, and I'm sure there will be. I'm absolutely positive there will, because there are men out there that are very interested in maintaining their intimacy with their loves, their goddesses. So today I was going to ask you, Irmgard, not all women reach menopause through what is perceived to be the natural aging process, right? So some are, suddenly thrust into it by trauma, such as car accidents or medical interventions, cancer treatments, or even extreme stress. So how do these abrupt or surgical transitions impact a woman differently, and how can they be supported in unique ways?
Mm. Yes, such such accidents are not only harmful because of broken bones or injured tissue. They go much deeper and usually also trigger traumatic psychological effects, which in turns have an impact on the physical condition.
Mm-hmm.
Cancer treatment does not only affect the body. Developing cancer always triggers deepest fears, panic,
Right.
and for the first time you are confronted with suffering and death. And this is one of the greatest human challenges. And yes, and abrupt or surgical transitions affect a woman differently.
Mm-hmm.
It always depends on how resilient and in touch with herself a woman is. If someone has learned to regulate herself well, has stable relationships, is spiritually connected, and has a stable environment, then it is more acceptable for such a person to deal with extreme stress. However, all the extreme stress, people react very different to it.
Right. Yes.
Yes. How someone deals with stress depends on how developed the 8 characteristics of resilience are.
Oh,
Mm.
tell me more.
Yes, yes. Probably are they already known to everyone, but I'll just repeat them here.
Okay, thank you.
So the first is optimism.
Mm-hmm.
The second is acceptance. The third is looking for solutions. The fifth is leaving the role of victim. This, I don't know, it's the number anymore, but taking responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Then sustainable relationships and network.
Oh, yes.
And planning for the future, and also believe in a higher force. This applies to all types of stress and trauma. And in order to receive support,
Mm-hmm.
one must first become aware of these effects on body, mind, and soul. Excuse me.
Yes.
And take them seriously in order to be able to provide a specific treatment. For instance, trauma-informed therapists,
Mm-hmm.
constellation work, of course, and especially Yoni constellations in the circle, like in a workshop, in the sacred circle of women, can have a lasting and healing effect here.
Yes, it can.
Yes. The women's circle has an encouraging, supportive, and witnessing effect. Each woman speaks about herself and shares her truth, and also injuries and wounds, which waves a sustainable and comforting pattern.
Well, it's amazing because I am reflecting now as you're speaking, on my own journey through an accident that was later, I was diagnosed as having gone through menopause very quickly. I remember having, blood work done in November and everything was normal. And then I had a car accident in December and I was in the hospital, ruptured spleen and a few other things. And the next thing I knew, in February, as I continued to see my doctor, I was told I was postmenopause.
Mm.
And I was never anything since then. And that was, she called it traumatized menopause. And it
Yeah.
was very traumatic in the sense of my body was perceived to be working very functioning normal, and then all of a sudden it went into gaining like 30 pounds, and the hemorrhaging and everything, and then nothing. And so it
Yes.
was this extreme loss because you know i I enjoyed having my period. I really
Mm.
did. And
Mm.
I
Mhm.
thought it to be very sacred, right? And then all of a sudden nothing. So I
Yeah.
can definitely, attest to what you're saying. And yes, had I had then, and this is not going, oh, poor me or victimhood here, but to have known about this is in, 1999, 2000, had I known about, you know, this work then, had I been trained, had I, had you in my life to, do a session or, none of that was available at that time to me because I hadn't come into this field. But
Mm.
I mean, my goodness, what I have done with you and what I have learned from you. Yeah. I mean, we need each other as women and to hold space and to be able to share that, what I'm sharing, with the audience and you right now, to be able to have done that then, and then not just to get support, but to be heard, to be seen, to be included. Yeah. It's just amazing the difference that these types of openness to, like you say, especially to hold on to our connection to a higher source, to our power, our higher power, or whatever our connection is to the field, right?
Yes.
So, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, when women experience not just that, but I'm just thinking in terms now of when women experience premature menopause due to chronic illness or inherited conditions, how do their emotional and psychological needs different, especially because if they start, at a very young age, right? The premature, what forms of support are often missing for them?
Yeah. The most important thing is the woman herself now.
Mm,
It really is. Because when a woman leaves herself, she is totally lost. She now needs herself completely, and this means she needs awareness. She needs her compassion and self-love for herself and her situation in order to be able to take herself and her needs seriously, because it is seriously, and act accordingly.
right.
There is no recipe for that, but in general, I can say that everything that is good for the woman and what she needs has priority now, really.
Mm-hmm.
Family and partnership and friendship can be very helpful. And as I mentioned in the previous question, it is also important to increase mental resilience. Invest time in building and maintaining your relationships with family and friends, and build up a supportive network and offer support yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This is also very important, yeah?
Right, right. Not to isolate.
Yes, you take support and you offer support, and focus on a positive experience and consciously enjoy them. Identify what you are grateful for in order to sharpen your perception of the positive.
Mm.
and train your ability to deal with stress through techniques such as yoga, for an example, meditation, and breathing exercises. Take time for self-reflection and analyze which coping strategies have worked well in the past.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very important, yeah.
Yes.
Attention to your needs and allow yourself periods of relaxation. Also important. Yeah. That means also work-life balance. Yeah. We women, we function every day. Yes, we have our our daily routine. We give and give and give, but we seldom take. Yeah.
Right.
Very rare. So this is important. And see problems as learning opportunities and actively look for solutions. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also take responsibility for your actions and work for a positive future.
Yes, I think that's one of the things that a lot of women that I have talked to, they sink into this place where they can't see their way through and they can't see a future other than what they're going through with what they're going through.
Mm.
And it's almost like it's all consuming.
Yes, this is then in such a state of mind, this is very important to just go in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
this very moment. Yeah, you go into now,
Right.
and then you can work it out, and then you can take action. If you are with your mind in the past, or if your mind too far in the future, then you cannot take action,
Mm-hmm.
because both times, both dimensions are not here.
Yes, exactly. And I would
It's
think,
just the very moment.
yeah, and I would think it just exasperates the intensity of well, the emotions, right? I mean, when the emotions are heated up, the body's going to definitely through stress heat up too, even more so, right? With hot flashes or whatever, every woman I talk to seems to have or goes through it differently. There's no set, like you say, there's no set recipe.
No, no, no. Really it's it's always a different journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And speaking of that, I was just going to ask you, you've worked with many neurodivergent and highly sensitive women. And so do you notice, how could I put this, like a kind of menopausal experience or intensity with, you know, with with the trauma histories or especially with the nervous system dysregulation?
Mm.
Um,
Traumatized women experience this roller coaster of hormones as extremely threatening, because the familiar things they know about themselves suddenly can change
mhm,
and break down.
right.
This insecurity about what lies ahead can reactive old behavioral patterns and coping strategies such as helplessness, rigidity, feeling at the mercy of others, tension, depression,
Mm,
loss of confidence and vitality, and also fatigue and suicidal thoughts can arise.
mm,
And lately, medical studies reveal that our adult body preserves traces of your childhood nervous system, and that can be reactivated.
oh, really?
Mhm.
During
Yeah.
during this time?
Yes, during
Oh,
this time, because of the state of hormones. Yes, these little things are influences everything.
Wow. So what a young girl goes through on all levels in her childhood
Yes,
can be reactivated during menopause.
yes. hmm
Hmm. Wow,
And
that's very
because of
interesting.
this, yes, and because of this, the all the insecurity and the fears of a little girl, of a young girl, yeah, in puberty, let's say, what's on the sexual level, there's also they can arise
Mhm.
and affects a adult woman, and this makes really, yeah, this these women in the menopause, they are really insecure sometimes about sexuality.
Oh, how so?
Yeah, because sexuality is changing. Yeah.
Right, right. Mhm.
Yes. And that goes so far that they are scared about towards a partner. Yeah.
Is that why a lot of relationships erode at that point? Like they dissolve with regards to maybe divorce or separation when a woman is going through this?
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
hmm
Interesting that.
and also a first time in sexuality. Yeah. What maybe was experienced as unloving or insensitive or overwhelming or painful, that these in the nerves, yeah, in the nerve system, that shows up again in the menopause.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That is amazing. I mean,
Yes,
really,
it's unbelievable, but it is like this. Yes. And then I know it from my own story. Yeah.
right?
Mm, really. I also had these yeah, had the imagine of fear. Uh,
Mhm, mhm.
and also old old feelings came up. Uh,
Very interesting that it would
so
resurface.
yes, I sometimes very shy, and I'm not a shy person. Yeah. Or
Interesting.
insecure in my womanhood. Yeah.
So reverting back to your innocence of your young childhood.
Yes, somehow. Yeah.
And so those nerves, obviously, you doing the work you do, that trauma, that unprocessed, and because it can be, unprocessed, right? Because when we're younger, we're not processing trauma. When we're going through puberty and then our first, sexual relationship, we're not processing any trauma at that point, but we're storing it. So that is stored in the womb and the pelvic space.
Yeah.
Wow. So how might this reawaken, or like how does it, I'm so fascinated at this, because how does this reawaken and intensify during perimenopause or postmenopause? How?
Yeah, this is through nerves and the CNS, ZNS, we call it, central nerve system.
Okay.
Trauma lies in this central nerve system,
Right.
and, and this is reactivating with the hormones.
So the hormones
The
signal this reactivation.
influences the hormones influences the nerve system.
Okay.
Mhm. And especially all traumas in the family of origin that have to do with menstruation, pregnancy, birth, children, or sexual abuse can be stored in the womb. These old injuries can be reactivated and intensified during menopause due to the physical symptoms and emotional insecurity that are characteristic of this phase. So you cannot just put one line or one track or one trace and see it completely alone or different. It is a whole system which is awakening there, all influenced by the hormones. And the menopause takes place physically precisely in this area.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. So
Yes, a
then,
traumatized tissue can be triggered if, for example, there are pregnancy and birth complications, miscarriages, abortions, or sexual abuse of our ancestors. Sometimes we lose the knowledge of our experiences that we have already made and learned from. The uncontrolled hormonal situation unsettles us in a similar way to puberty.
amazing. And so for many women who just go to a doctor and then they start on hormone replacement, that is not going to answer the situation that was or that is being re-triggered. It's impossible.
No, it cannot be, because if you go to a doctor, this is only the physical level.
Right.
So, and this is just one thing. And mind and, and soul are two other different things.
Mm-hmm.
Things. So, and they are unseen in the most cases.
Right. It's not being
Go to a
addressed.
doctor.
Yeah, it's not being addressed. I mean, you are addressing it, but it's not being addressed in the bigger picture.
Mm.
It's not. And so then it leaves women very almost lost.
Yes, if you just go, if you are used to go to a doctor, to a
Mm-hmm.
medical doctor, and you think you are safe. So
Mm-hmm.
this is just a little thing.
Right.
Yeah. The bigger things are somewhere else. They are really in your mind and in your soul, especially the menopause.
It, and I wonder why, I still think about it. I wonder why it's so in our society, so, looked down upon and almost like, well, you're done.
Pardon?
A lot of people think when they are going through menopause, that they're done. They're finished. This is it. There's nothing
Yeah,
else. Game
yes.
over.
Game over. No, not really.
No,
Game
started.
starts. Yes, that I can I really subscribe that life starts in the second half of life,
Mm-hmm.
because first we are a little girl and we raised up as a girl. Then we are a young woman and we are we act and react as a young woman, as someone told us, as we learned, we
Right.
learned from our environment that how we how we react and how we act as a woman. And then we have children, and then we are a mother, and then we are really in charge for for our small children, and we are in charge for the household, we are in charge for the marriage, we are in charge for everything. And the menopause is the first time
Mm-hmm.
then we can go home to ourself, what really means to be a woman.
Hmm. And
And
that can be scary.
really different.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, coming home to ourselves, right? Like you say, a scary proposition. It can be.
Yes, because it's unknown territory.
Right? Yes.
So our mothers, and especially, in Germany, when we have all these war trauma, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and our mothers and grandmothers, they didn't talk.
No.
They didn't talk about themselves. My mother, I did not even realize that my mother is in menopause because she was like always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She didn't tell me about her flushes. She didn't tell me about what she's thinking. She didn't tell me about her fears and or maybe also panic. She didn't talk or share that she maybe is scared about losing her attractivity, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
her youth. So they didn't talk at all. Yeah.
Silence.
Silence, yeah.
Silence. Yeah. And it's
And
almost like a secret, right?
yeah, and a lot of shame.
Mm-hmm.
Well, always, we women in a women's lives always shame.
Why
Yeah,
is that?
and this is patriarchy
Yes.
because we are different from men. It is a man's world, and it is a man's values, and it is a man's everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Exactly. I did a class with Dr. Angwin on Saturday on
Mhm.
and this one, your lovely husband has done workshops with her on this, I believe, the war between men and women.
Yes.
Yes, and I found it very fascinating when she said, and it really struck me, and it's true, but society has made it such that we are, kind of being told, no, it's not true, that men and women are different. you know, we are not equal. And I went, yeah, I really have never wanted to be equal, but I was forced into this through my own, following the tribe, believing that, we could be equal and, the rights and the wrongs. But it's fascinating when really like for me, when I sat back and went, no, I'm not equal to a man and I don't want to be. I want to be a woman. And
Yes.
I am different. And I want to bask in that difference. I
Yeah.
I don't want to be the same as a man.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. No.
No.
Not at all.
Not at all. And for women, who I would think, now this is just my thought, but I would think as, we're going along in life and we're going through, the belief that, we are equal to men and, all this other stuff. w- Then along menopause comes and hits us, and it's like a 2x4 because, it, you know, we're not equal to men and we are different. And then all of a sudden we are, you know, coming back to us in a different way than society has taught us that we could be.
Yeah. And
So confusing.
there is very important is the goddess here,
Right.
because even God is a man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the man has all the rights on their side because God is a man.
Right.
And we have to think really differently. We have to see that the creator has to be a woman. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
This is very important because a
Men don't
woman
have
gives
babies.
life. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And a woman gives birth, and a woman, and this is in every woman is creating energy.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, she needs a man to get a baby, yes,
Right.
but she gives birth to the baby. So, and we are really very different,
Absolutely.
and and we should be proud on it. Yeah, we should not look up to men and copy that what they do, because this is not ours. This is not our values. This is not our temperament. This is it's not our state of mind.
Hmm. Precisely. Precisely. And thinking in terms of your work, the Yoni constellation work, after, I mean, the the whole area that it combines is the creative.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking, how many women get blocked with their creativity during menopause if they have not and don't, own that that's what it is the creative, and that, now to transfer the creative from being able to have children to be able to create that way, to create a different way
Mm. Yeah.
and to use that energy. But then it's almost like you have to clean house in that area with regards to the if there is trauma, right? To
Mm.
to get the juices, to get that creative juice flowing again.
Yeah. But even if you are not traumatized, it is also difficult in our world now with all these male values
Mm,
to walk in beauty, yeah,
right.
to 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 enjoy womanhood, to find ourselves beautiful and attractive, because all the magazines, the
Mm,
media, all they have these youth cult,
right.
yeah, and so we do not have idols to get or to enjoy our getting older.
Mhm, mhm. It's an obsession.
There is nothing,
No,
yeah. There
no,
there's there is darkness because every woman believes that she loses value, yeah,
right.
because she cannot, get babies anymore, or she's getting older.
Mhm, mhm.
So, but if God is a woman,
Right. Exactly.
we we are secure and we are safe. Yes.
Right. It's coming back to that, like you say.
Yes.
It's coming back to that. And it's so, yeah, it's so clouded over with the youth in terms of wanting to maintain that youth and compete. Well, like I say, it's the we can't compete with our younger self. And I don't want to. I
No.
would have to give up all the wisdom, all the experience, all that I've been through to
Mhm.
go back to being,
Mhm.
young again for what? And so rather than compete with it, just, embrace it and bring it along with me, all of
Yeah.
that, right? And
Mm.
and yes, but it is. I mean, like you say, the media and the magazines and, just the continual bombardment of looking and being better than you are, and continually, it's it j well, I can't keep up with it. I don't want to keep up with it. I don't even look at it very much, but it's constantly in your face, right there. You can't miss it. But it's the youth of today, the young girls. I think of my granddaughter who's 10, and she is limited to her time on social media. I mean, literally very limited, not TikTok and Snapchat and all that stuff. But still, the pressure from other girls that are on it all the time.
Mhm.
is amazing.
Mhm.
There's tremendous pressure. And
Mhm.
I guess I had pressure of a different sort when I was her age, but because social media wasn't around. But it's amazing that, I think in terms of how much we need one another as women to honor the goddess in each of us. And
Yeah.
it's so encouraging to have you and, to share you with our audience, which it is now, because it's so needed.
Yes. My mission is to remember or remain women
Mhm.
about the goddess, yeah, and about the divine female principles.
Right, right.
And because one time we had it, one time we had it, and it is just nah, sometimes like rem remember.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the sacred circle helps us to remember because the circle of women, they exists in thousands of years. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We were sitting in the tipi,
Mhm.
sitting and talking. We were sitting and bleeding. We were sitting and caring. We were sitting and giving and give birth. Yeah. We were we were sitting and accompany our sick community, our sick people, our dying people. That's what this is women's values. This is women's work. And I find this very wonderful.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, men do it. They have their tribes. They do, whatever they do. And so, yeah, it's such that it's so important for women to embrace and engage again with being their beingness, their goddess. And
Yeah,
and
and we are the specialists for support, for supporting each other, for comforting, for mindfulness, for yes, for caring, and I, this is this is so this is our this is what a woman is. Yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
women are the specialists for all troubles and needs since
Oh,
ever. Yeah.
yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And to wear that crown, to
Yes.
to wear that crown and to, like you say, to reconnect to their feminine energy and the source of power.
Hmm.
Because I think in some ways, I might be wrong, but I think in some ways, women are some women, and that's a generalization, but some women are afraid of their power.
Yes. Yes.
And that's sad in itself.
Yeah, really, that's sad in itself. You say that because they orient themselves at the man values and at the men. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
this is sad to see because they are losing their self.
Mhm.
They are not connected with their yoni. They are not connected with their heart. They are not connected with their inner woman.
Right. Right.
Mm,
So
mhm.
basically it for that woman, she's mostly in her head,
Yeah,
not anywhere else.
yeah,
Mhm. Mhm. Wow.
yeah, and all these influences, these yeah, in the USA, yeah, in Europe, the there are influences of making career, earn money, have a good job, have maybe children, yeah, one or two, but go back to work, yeah, and all this, it is really too much for a woman. Why? Why should why should she do all this? Yeah.
Well, it's because somewhere along the way, we're equal to men.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're not, because we are burning out at a very high rate.
So this is like this. You said the truth. Yeah. We are burning out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when we are
We
burning
lose
out,
ourselves, and then we need face surgery,
mhm,
uh,
mhm,
and we need Botox, and we need what was
liposuction, you name it. Yeah, everything to connect to our younger self. But the thing is, we're not connecting to our younger self, because our younger self is screaming at us, going, "Hello, why are you doing this?" You know, it's too much. It's too much, and the burnout rate is very high.
mm,
And then what is known is the depression, and then we're on, antidepressants, and we're on this, and we're on Ozempic to lose weight, and we're on this, and we're, on all these
yes,
all these
yes,
it's all these
yes.
masks, right? It's to avoid who we truly are.
And in the menopause, we need motherly love for ourselves.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Mhm. Our younger self looks for the mother.
Hmm. Well, especially if we don't have a mother alive, how else are we going to get it?
Mm. Yeah. So we we have to learn how to increase motherly love for ourselves.
Hmm. Well, you know what? I
Mhm.
think we're going to end on that note for today, and let our listeners contemplate what that might mean.
Yes.
Yes, because that is, so beautifully said. And I want our listeners to look forward to our next episode, which is going to happen soon. But for today, yes, that is something that I will be reflecting on as well. So, my goodness, I'm so grateful to you for being here with us today. This will, air this coming weekend. And I know our listeners are looking forward to it, because I have had comments about when is the next episode. So the next episode is now. So thank you so much. And my love to your husband and you always. And I'm just eternally grateful, because you have brought me back to the goddess within me. So I thank you
Yeah, thank
so
you,
much. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So until next time, lots of
Until next
love.
time.
So,
Yes.
so